Hey, everybody. Welcome to Centered, the podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Braverman, and I'm sharing holistic content that reconnects you to your most centered self, that place within you that's energized, knowing, uplifted despite all the chaos and demands of life. I offer this perspective from my background as a scientist, a movement specialist, a yogi with over 20 years of guiding clients on their transformational journeys from healing back pain to upleveling capacity. Because once you're centered, you become the portal of possibility. Today, we're getting into the core connection. And the core is having a moment. If you are into anything health, alternative health, physical fitness, anything like that, you know about the core. And the perspective that I want to bring on the core today is that it's much more than we are giving it credit for. The core is a bigger region than the abdominals. And as much as I champion having strong abdominals and supporting our posture with the strength of our abdominals and core muscles, I also want to expand our definition of what the core actually is. So we have a physical core and a metaphysical core, and they are deeply intertwined, connected, so much so that they are each other. And the physical core is the container of you that isn't the limbs and the head. It goes all the way from the glutes up to the neck. So it's a huge section, and it requires integration in all parts, like a symphony. Because when one part isn't playing its role, the other parts will overcompensate to try and take over. And then we get imbalances in the core structure and in all of the systems and organs that are in this container. So, core integration from the physical standpoint is this whole section from the glutes all the way up to the throat. And then we have this other part of us, the metaphysical core, that expands all the way from this physical matter that we are out 10 to 15 feet. And we have layers of ourselves, our energy field that extends all the way out there. And what most people don't realize is that there are physical connection points for that metaphysical self. And the spiritual name for these connection points has always been in Sanskrit as the chakras or the chakra system. Chakra means wheel in Sanskrit. And then there are physical nerve bundles and ganglia that are located at each of these chakra sites that most people are completely unaware of. So we have a physical representation of the chakras in these sort of concentric shaped nerve bundles and ganglia, as well as this metaphysical aspect of these portals of energy known as the chakras. And I think of them as overlapping a little bit like a plug, so that you have the male and the female end plugging together. And of course, it doesn't look quite like that, but when we are connected, when we have that core connection to these spaces, it can feel like that. It can feel that energy there. So let's take a moment and just talk about how the core, the physical core, is so much more than the abdominals. We've got, if you look at the body and you look at the space of the container of the core, we have some really key parts there. We have all of our, organs of digestion and of sexuality and reproduction and elimination. And we have the lymph and the tons of blood flow there, the heart, of course, the lungs, so many key and important aspects that make us able to function are here. And when we learn to connect to it with the mind-body connection, we have even more ability to maintain health. So one of the key things with the core is that it is meant to move in a very specific way. This is biomechanics. So, our biomechanics of the body are like a roadmap to how to move well in your body. It's stuff like being able to embody your physiology and move in space without wear and tear. So when your biomechanics are good, the body's moving really well. And when they're bad, we get these kind of hiccups in the body, wear and tear, injury, that sort of thing. And one of the key things with the core is not only having a strong core, but an integrated core, and being integrated in both the spiritual and the metaphysical and the physical is key. But also key is understanding some basic biomechanics, such as being able to hinge at the hips rather than hinge at the back, being able to keep the shoulder blades on the back rather than letting them slide forward. And we talked about a little of this in the posture episode. So there is a strong connection between core and posture, right? They're very interrelated. And so as we look at the biomechanics of the body and understand how to move well and how to balance things and how to create strength, both internal and external, we have this stronger core connection. So we have, as I said, these nerve bundles at each of these chakra points. So let's take a look at these a little bit. So our lowest chakra is down in the pelvis, and so is the second one up. And the lowest one is responsible for the energies of grounding, the energies of stability and safety. Then the next one up is right at the diamond of the core, the space that Laura Hyman calls the diamond of the core. I love that name. And it's between the two frontal hip points, the navel, and the pubic bone. And this is a space a lot of people lose connection to, especially if you've had pregnancies or big changes in weight. We often lose this, and it's sort of like a seat belt to keeping our posture and our inner and outer strength coordinated. And the muscle there, we can think of the deepest layer is the transverse abdominis, the TVA. It's very commonly talked about in fitness. But again, it's so much more because it needs to be integrated with the rest of the core. So then that space, the chakra associated with that space is creativity and sensuality. So as we get into the body there and we start to develop a relationship mentally, physically, and metaphysically, we start to be able to express these elements, these attributes of ourselves more and more. If we move up a little bit further to the solar plexus, we have even more layers of abdominal strength and abdominal muscles. We also have these identity and our authenticity. And so when we're connected to this space through muscular engagement, neuromuscular engagement, and this awareness of the chakra system, we have that feeling to tap into and resource as stuff comes up in life. Moving up a little higher, the space of the heart, and this having coherence between all or among all of these chakras in the heart is key. Really, we can't have an open-hearted expression without that element of safety, without that element of authenticity and creativity. So these lower energy centers and the upper energy center of the heart, and then even higher at the throat, have to be balanced and integrated in order to fully resource them. And having the physical strength and the mental awareness of how to tap into these spaces is what really gives us this ability to up level and get into a higher state of energy flow and a more easeful life. That said, of course, we have waves of challenge and opportunity to grow. But when we're connected, we're able to really tap into and resource that space to bring us to that next level of personal growth, of life expression, and of peace, grace, these higher elevated emotions. And I want to talk a little bit about how So much of what we do in personal growth and in personal shifting is related to our ability to regulate our nervous system. As I said, each of these points within the core have nerve bundles associated with them, and our ability to tap in to the nervous system and let it know that it's safe when it's safe, and let it know, that we need to shift and it's safe to shift into a higher state of core connection. These are all things that can happen when we tap into our belief system, when we tap into our inner strength. So being able to draw the mind into the physical spaces that these chakras are through specific core integration, somatic exercises, yoga exercises, and breath work is what brings us all together into this core connection. And I wanted to share a story with you today and see if it resonates with you. I had a client come to me with back pain. We're going to call her Olivia. Olivia had the kind of back pain that was so intense and chronic. You could just see it on her face and the way she moved in her body. And she had had 3 kids. And even before she had her 3 kids, she had chronic back pain. And after the kids, it was even worse. And for those of you with kids or with kids in your life or even dogs, the movement that they do when they come and rush and hug you or jump on you, it can be so unbelievably painful for people in pain, right? Because it's in physical therapy, it's known as a perturbation, or just like like an erratic bump. And then the body has to seize up. This is that safety part I was talking about. When the core muscles are not organized and structured right, things will seize up in order to stabilize what's not meant to be mobile, and other things will move that are meant to be stable. And this is most often what I see in clients with back pain. Is it's just the neurological connection and neural pathways aren't established where they need to be. So as soon as Olivia came to me, said, "Great, I want to see how you move." And so we took a look at how she was moving in life. And of course, there were areas of strength that needed to happen. And this element of biomechanics, where not hinging at the back, hinging at the hips instead, and creating connection, which had been lost, to the stabilizing muscles of the pelvis. So the glutes and the psoas needed to become stronger and rebalanced. The abdominal core needed to be reconnected and turned on again. That TVA we were talking about, that diamond of the core, really needed to be readdressed. And over time, and it didn't take that much time, I think it was within 6 to 8 weeks, she was feeling so much better. It was just like as soon as these spaces started to turn back on, meaning motor firing again, those neurological pathways were back, and everything started to happen for her in a faster way, so that she was able to adapt to the kids coming at her and, carrying groceries and all the functional stuff that we really need to do, that when we have back pain or other pain in other areas of the body really makes it difficult. So just again, like this idea of core connection went so far beyond the physical for her, because what she noticed was such an up leveling, not only in strength, but in self-awareness, of up leveling capacity in her life. She said to me, "I'm playing with my kids for like the first time ever. I used to just leave that to their dad because I was just too busy with work and pain and all of the chores." And it just changed her ability to function in life so much by having this integrated connection to her core, both the physical and the metaphysical, as well as the components that we were talking about of biomechanics, the neurospinal integration, and then this balance of suppleness and strength, being able to move where you're meant to move and be stable where you're meant to be stable. And then just like this little bit of education about how these things come together in the body in a holistic way is such a game changer. So I want to leave you with this information just to start playing with these spaces in your own body and thinking about, are your glutes active when they need to be active, meaning when you're moving side to side, when you're moving forward and back, when you're bending over, are you hinging? And is your core engaged in that deep abdominal area known as the TVA? Are you able to open your heart without throwing your ribs forward? Are you able to feel comfortable in your shoulders and your arms when you're lifting things? Or are you feeling pinch points? How is the neck? How is the head? Are you able to stack that posture and get that back of the head, back of the shoulder blades, and back of the pelvis in alignment without discomfort? And how does the core connection play into that in your life? So if that resonated with you, play with that a little bit more. And you can always check out the resources on YouTube. And just remember, the more centered you are, the more you up level into that portal of possibility. And if that episode resonated with you and you'd like to go deeper into your healing journey, check out my newly released book, Centered: The Art of Living from Within, now available on Amazon. Or head over to centeredbyleslie.com to schedule a no-cost strategy session for wellness coaching, Ayurvedic therapies and herbal consults, back pain healing, and yoga. I'm looking forward to working with you.